Yes, more viewer requests for me to go through. Sorry, still no real updates for a while. I think there's only 2 of these videos left until I work my way through all the requests though, so here we go. First, revisiting an older one. I promised a few videos before that I'd save my thoughts on the Sonic PR for a separate video, and I know I decided against that. I don't think I want to talk about it at all. The thing is, there's no real momentum going on within the Sonic series right now. No energy. I'm sensing everyone, including myself, are just too tired and up, batteries drained. Except for the people who love the sense of humor. They had a TV show on web services to keep them entertained, but if you're not into their brand of humor, then the Sonic universe is a wasteland now. There hasn't really been anything to be happy or angry about. It's just a marathon of nothingness. Except one that's filled with hundreds of big announcements and surprises and panels. They keep trying to rally us up, keep trying to get us positive and hyped up. But without a core Sonic product to sustain it, it's just exhausting. So I don't really have to say anything about it, other than that I'm just tired of this whole circus. Just wake me up when the next game is finally done. Nothing against the Twitter itself. Weber's a nice dude, can be very clever and fun sometimes, and he does his best. But yeah, with no heart and soul sustaining the Sonic universe and the terrible identity crisis Sonic's in right now, his efforts just come across as Nero playing the fiddle while Rome is burning. Great fiddle skills, and I appreciate an emperor who's willing to entertain the masses with some mad skills, but at this moment I'm too concerned that my house is burning up and I'm too tired from all the emotions to really care. I'll say one thing though, recently they started this new initiative, they're starting an Instagram or something to create dialogue between fans and leading artists, designers and influencers. I like that. See, that's the only thing that got me any excited from Sega lately, when the Sonic Boom Fire and Ice guy mentioned some things in an interview that he knew people disliked the Labyrinth level design. He was going to streamline the level structures to be more level-packed. See, that's the stuff I want to hear. The Sega stuff, the Sega staff learning lessons and sharing with us what they're doing to fix it. That's something that makes me excited, way more than them just dangling Big the Cat in front of me. So, if what I think they mean with that project, that we'll hear more on hands what Sega's thought process is and what problems they're tackling and how, then I might get excited. Other than that, this whole circus is just exhausting. I don't really care enough to get riled up about anything, especially since I have zero faith and trust in them at this point. Faith and trust they can only regain by communicating or showing the goods. Right, now on to new topics. Mila Basset, what do you believe is a good boss fight in a video game? As a kid, I always hated boss fights. They felt like marathons. Perform perfectly for 5 minutes, or start over. Anyway, I think the best boss fighters are the ones that first feel natural to the rest of the gameplay, so the boss really functions like it's an exam, a test of your skills accumulated in the rest of the game. Nothing's more garbage than failing a game because you can't through to a weird minigame that was never the genre of the game to begin with. And second, I want boss fights to be cinematic, feel like a Bond fight or something. So my favorite kind of bosses is stuff like what happens in Contra or such. You're just going through the level, doing things, and bam, boss out of nowhere, starting to complicate matters. It's an extension of what you were already doing in a normal gameplay, but it puts a new intense twist on it, and those bosses are usually short and intense, in and out, bam. So yeah, keep the audience on their toes and be cool about it. That's my favorite kind of boss in an action game. What a good boss fight would be in a golf simulator or a truck drive simulator or something, that's a harder question.
I would say memorable music that sounds epic, have it set in an interesting environment, have it in a way where you know how to beat the boss, but the fight can still be tough. If you're going against the final boss, make it like you're going up against a god. Nothing is more disappointing when you think you're going to fight someone you know will destroy you, and he turns out to be a pushover and he is down in 5 minutes. Also, where the boss could use the same abilities and could use them against you, like Wario from Mario Land 2.
Cfood, I'd like to see your reactions and thoughts to the death battles with Sonic characters in them and how they interpret the characters. The death battles specifically, eh? My mind can never wrap around the concept of trying to take something so unstable and so depending on the whims of several writers together to encapsulate that in one stable factual strength power, especially since most creators probably don't give a damn about the strength specifications of their own characters. I can just imagine Miyamoto looking like a confused deer staring at an ongoing train if fans ever press him to explain the exact strength specifications of a power star or anything. So yeah, about the specific outcomes, don't ask me. I never really cared about character fights. The competition, who's stronger than who. To me, just watching how a character behaves and reacts to any situation is more interesting than just the raw strength. And the death battles actually do also play with those, but it's, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's hard to get a fictional character really figured out for a real fight. It's kind of weird. Anyway, it's amusing to watch, but I don't really think too deeply about it. Anyway, I kind of get it. The thing about these death battles and such, I tend to look at them like, you know how lions, when they're cubs, play together and fight their siblings, playing, but at the same time they learn all kinds of fighting techniques and tricks that as an adult lion, they can suddenly use those skills for real fights. I look at those nerd character battles kind of the same way, nerds occupying them in trying to ground a fictional unstable character into a solid set of realistic stats, and then exploring the outcome to almost like the fake cop playing for real science. Whenever I read about the thought process of how scientists tackle something like creating a new power source or trying to figure out how to create a time machine, it kind of resembles how you approach death battles. Like you start with a fantasy, create some sort of weird fictional half-logical device that could vaguely be this new hypothetical time machine, and then they try to reconnect those fictional ideas they made up themselves and try to find the closest real-world analogy and see how well it fits. That's apparently a real way how to try and invent new things. So yeah, keep having those fictional death battles. Maybe one day you'll use the skills your brains build up to create a real time machine. That would be cool. Mario Fan 5, Mega Dissected about Sega and the demise of arcade games in the late 90s and early 2000s and its importance on gaming to this very day. Poof, another big open thing. I don't think if I can think of something interesting to say so quickly. I'll just say this, at the moment I'm a little disappointed why only so very few indie games or cell phone games are the crazy action-packed arcade games of the past. I expected them to have more of a return to that game style, but it isn't really. Like especially when Sega said they were going to make cell phone games, it made too much sense for them to start making all kinds of crazy Taxi House, Dead Nights kind of games that seems to fit perfectly quickly on the go, but apparently not. Although there was that that car sucker game recently, that looked kind of neat. But yeah, there seems to be a drift between games. It's either cheap and simple and purely about the ideas, or it's big, expensive, and brash. And quick, fast, and furious action, AAA action arcade games apparently fell between the boat and the docks. Too expensive looking, too flashy for indie and cell phone games, but too short and cheap for AAA games. So instead they start to disappear. Sad. Or as you think, I guess it's more replaced by movie-like experiences. Though sometimes there's still arcade types of games coming. I'm looking forward to that 90s racing game and indie developers make for the Wii U. That looks fantastic, but it's in development for forever now. Hope they hurry up. The Wii U is reaching its finish line. There's also other games like that. I think I recently heard about Apex Racing Apex. That also looks like a little too before my time, and yeah, it's still there, not much. Guardians of Legends, special request of a friend. I would like to see a discussion on internet shows versus shows that have been serialized for television. I know very little about the production of a real TV show, so I'm not sure if I can say much. Anyway, real TV has a consistent quality, better eye candy, better pace, better rhythm, it's more comfortable, it's more real, as in it's closer to actual power, actual authority in the real world. There's more of a quality control, so when a host or writer's ego goes rampant, there should be more people around to slap them back to reality, so it should be less offensive. On the other hand, web shows have a stronger personality, as they have lesser egos and sponsors to appease. Because they have looser time restrictions, they have the possibility to be more snappy and to the point, they aren't bound to the laws, so they can surprise you more. There's little to no quality control, so it's very possible you run into a video of an unrestrained ego screaming like a maniac making a fool of himself. The audience is way closer to the host, so if you like the host, it can create a sort of comfort food that you can just listen to Doc Walker or Brad Jones or Markiplier or Mr. Plinkett or whoever to just be talking about anything for an hour and be happy about it. Comfort food, like hanging out with friends, so it creates a closer bond, so it feels more real. Wait, I said that about the TV thing. Again, TV is real as in it's acknowledged and approved by important people, kind of way, and webshow feels real as there's less layers between the viewer and the on-screen personality, so there. Also, web shows can incorporate more interactivity with the audience, so that makes the audience feel more powerful and evolved, which also increase brand loyalty. So I guess that's a nice way to differentiate the two, I suppose. ChannelMagic64. Okay, how about a Dissected of Seaman for the Dreamcast? Well, that's one Sega Dreamcast classic I never played. Bad me. I have no microphone peripheral for my Dreamcast, so it's hard for me to test. Game certainly looks very Japanese. But yeah, sorry, I don't really have anything interesting. Just watch the Angry Video Game Nerd video on the thing. That seems to fit. BrokenM. Well, not so much April Fool's Dissected, but point out that Metroid Other M actually has a better Metacritic score than Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, Sonic Lost World, and Sonic Unleashed. Okay, Other M has a better Metacritic score than Sonic Colors, Generations, Lost World, and Unleashed. And even most Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 versions outside of the original Dreamcast release too. Likely conclusion, stability of the franchise and fans being on the same line as what the franchise should be about does wonders to your score. Metroid knows what it is, what it should be, and has respect, while Sonic is all over the place with no real identity, and therefore nobody agrees on anything. So that even when a stable series kind of screws up, there's still a certain unity amongst people's receptions or something. I don't know. But yeah, Sonic, we need a reboot. Except not a reboot of the series, which pretty much already reboots itself with every new game. But the reputation reboots, which is impossible. So yeah. Dragoncrashhero12. Consider the analogies of your content and subversive humor with those of the psychedelic polka subvertive music Primus. Primus, mostly known for its South Park intro song, crazy music videos, and songs with names like Wiona's Big Brown Beaver. We have some things in common, especially how we both approach comedy by making it natural, never make a big deal out of our jokes and wait for the applause, just throw the audience into a crazy world and let them figure out for themselves if it's funny or not. We both have a quick pace, loud music use, simple, cheap animation. Well, okay, only in that video clip. The animation in the Devil Went to Georgia clip is amazing. And that's about it. YamiMario. Pretend as if someone else made IMP and you just discovered it, and for some reason you do a Dissected on it. Also, Aviator Z asked for this. IMP Dissected. Oh boy. First, from an outside perspective, if I didn't create it, I have no idea what I would generally think of the show outside of myself. But I'm pretty sure I'd be irritated that the political references make no sense. Bush and Blair don't look or ever act like their real-life counterparts and are completely random. There's also tons of story beats that never go anywhere. Tiffany's Sailor Moon powers and the robot pet are barely explained and go nowhere. Cousin's hatred goes nowhere. Lots of character elements that are barely utilized, especially Henrik, who has way too many character gimmicks without that ever becoming an actual joke. There's definitely too many story beats and character elements and characters in general in there that are never used to their full potential or even half potential. Definitely the show's biggest weakness. I would be impressed that each episode seems to have its own theme instead of sticking to a central formula, although I might be confused why the superhero aspect of the superhero show is rarely utilized these days, especially in the current episodes. Other than that, I don't know. There's a duality going on in my newer work that my tone is getting a little contradicting. Like on one hand, I want to be this super fast-paced one joke after another pounding cartoon, but then there's also moments where it's slow and just showing off the environment. The characters just being in the environment. Not sure if that would bother me, but it's what I hear some people will be annoyed by it. Other than that, I don't know. The show's too personal for me to really stand away from it and judge it naturally. Outside of obviously technical issues or something. Weird mouth sync, weird use of subtitles, blah blah blah. Though usually I rarely go into that, mostly because I know my own work is held together by Scotch tape, so judging other work by its technical execution is not in my DNA. IMP from my own perspective, well, this show's pretty much started at the moment I started to do internet cartoons to begin with, so it's kind of cool to have this one thing going on constantly. From start to finish, where you can see where my brain is going each year that I'm active on the internet. You know, every single complaint or observation or thing I said, on Dissected can probably be pointed straight back to IMP to some degree, because running a series for yourself is really the way how you teach your brain to see what goes wrong, why it went wrong, what to do, how things work, what things have for an effect on your audience. I recognize mistakes others make because I made those mistakes, therefore I can also imagine why other people make the same mistakes again. So watching early episodes is extremely embarrassing to myself, but on the other hand, I think it's important not to dismiss your older self, to completely discredit yourself in the past. It's important to keep remembering why you made mistakes, why you thought that was a good idea back then, what the consequences were. And sometimes, even though you grew and become better as a person, sometimes you drill a bit and have to look at your younger self to see where new you went wrong, because I also lost a view of my qualities on my way here. I think that's the biggest issue for me for still working on a show that I set up early on when I was still a teen, kinda. Besides the awkwardness of Sonic fan characters. It's mostly that most of the cast had no personality at all at the beginning. Or at least I never focused on that too much early on. It was way more individual gag and randomness driven. I'm almost surprised how smoothly I could nail down the characters into some sort of personality as soon as I started to try and ground the cast more. So even early on I had some idea of the directions of the characters. Even the characters with little personality kind of makes sense. Like Agehawk. Super mellow and calm and not much of a strong personality, but considering he's indestructible and an ageless being, the super mellow attitude kind of works naturally with him. If you're never in danger, then, you know, there's never any energy with you. Just everything just kind of flows. Though after I started focusing on giving the character more direction, I noticed the show was getting more and more negative and dark in direction. Everyone started to act like a bit of an asshole because, you know, the jerks are always the most interesting to write, to see in action. So from then on, I had to put more effort in keeping some characters pure and often use them to balance the meaner characters out. That was one of the very most fascinating experiences for me on IMP when Zodi wrote the bad guy episode. Zodi, my old friend, he wrote most of all my early episodes of IMP up until episode 10 or something, and then I rarely, if ever, had guest writers for my show. So when he came back with his own episode for the first time in years, that was so weird for me to read the script and suddenly be way more aware than ever before that how much the characters lived in my head and had all those invisible rules to the show that I never really thought about before. The thing I noticed the most when I have a guest writer is that when they make the characters way more dismissive and selfish. Like in the script of that bad guy episode, Zodi wrote that my character would outright try to run over and murder the rival superhero. Especially frustrating for me because every single one of the characters starring in that episode were the nicest of the gang. John, Agehawk, Zodi, and Roger. They're all the least likely to be the mean spirit of the gang and cause trouble on purpose. So to watch particularly them to be written that much darker was very weird to me. But yeah, personalities. I'm a little concerned these days about the voice of the writer. Like, I noticed more and more with writers, like in general in movies and such, like particularly Joss Whedon, Seth MacFarlane, and Puntik and Graff, that every character in their stories start to sound the same, like everyone is the same character but with a different flavor. You know, everyone literally turns into the writer itself, so I'm sometimes kind of worried if that's the case with me. I don't think so. Mostly because my writer never really focuses on how characters talk. It's mostly about the situations they're in. So, as a test, I had some thought experiments. Like, what if every IMP character was in the same situation? How would that situation go for each individually? Like, imagine your entire cast having done a superhero thing and having to say a comical one-liner. What kind of sense of humor would they have? Imagine the cast staring the defeated bad guy down, and then... Like, Hentai Boy would probably be the only one to whom a pun or a victory joke feels really natural. Agehawk would probably try to say one out of obligation, but kind of fail awkwardly. Ginny would sound like a disapproving mother. Roger, me, I would say something mostly to relieve stress, like he can't believe he did something. Buster would just straight up wish the villain to hell or something. Henrik's probably too distracted and to walk away without saying anything. Brownie says Kia. Zodi would apologize for hurting the bad guy or just be distracted and silly. Maylene would just have a dull and stay down command or something. that kind of stuff. It's fun writing exercise to really try to understand and differentiate your own characters, give them all a different sense of humor or approach to humor or a different lack of humor. Because that's the thing that bothers me the most about something like Family Guy, that every character always has the exact same approach, the same sense of humor, the same way of thinking. Anyway, yeah, so many plot threads that never go anywhere. It's mostly because I gave myself the rule to never just introduce a new character or have that taken over the entire show suddenly. Like, if you have a new character with a different dynamic, I want to introduce them a bit in the background, make them a little intriguing, and then after a couple straight episodes, you work your way slowly up to really properly reveal that character. Problem is that I only make about 2 episodes a year or something now, so I have so many old scripts to work through first that the planned storyline just never gets going. So yeah, for those hoping I ever increase the quality of my animation and become better, it's most likely the opposite, that I'll deliberately make my artwork even worse, just so I can get these episodes out of the way and get moving. But then I get too in love with the setting or situation and spend too much time on the background or stupid details, and yeah, it's a bit of a mess. But hey, in a way, IMP and my dissected videos are in sync with each other. I make stupid stories so I can talk about story construction, and I talk about the construction, and therefore I learn more about how to make my stupid stories. It's all the circle of life. It's all imbalanced. Jon Mahashintina. Your names. Jon Mahashintina. Jon Mahashintina. The next big hit reality TV show.
What I think the next reality TV show would be, how about a Donald Trump the President reality show? Or perhaps a Donald Trump dealing with not being the President TV show?
Last request for this week, Zaloss back to Sonic again, talking about very little-known characters like Honey, Tiara, Ray, etc. Well, never mind, etc. videos long enough. That's a hard one. There's not much to talk about them. They're mostly just designs. Ray, I understand why he's never used. Maybe confusing with Tails. Funny how Archie made him look extremely Sonic Boomish, mixed between Sonic and Tails. Interesting. On the other hand, his kind of generic design would make him perfect as an NPC villager character. So if they ever make an RPG or use hub worlds again, he would be perfect as like a random townsperson. Tiara, the character that never was. With the midriff showing outfit, they'll get people who dislike characters like Rouge all riled up again. Yeah, not a good idea if you want to avoid the furry accusation blah 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 stuff. I think she looks cool. Very sporty. Kind of reminds me of Lori from Just Jackrabbit. I can already hear people accuse her of being a Sally Acorn ripoff for something, though. Looks a bit too flashy to work as a random townsfolk. Maybe she'd be needed as like a reporter character. Like if within the Sonic universe there's like a TV show and she's one of the hosts or something. I'd probably do something like that if I have to write something around her. But I don't see much chance of her ever appearing. Would have been cool if she appeared in an Easter egg in Sonic Lost World, considering the guy from Sonic Extreme also worked on that game. Oh well, that didn't happen. Honey, out of all of them, probably that has the biggest chance to ever appear in a game. She looks the most natural as a new side character. I still doubt it. She's made as a parody or homage to the Fighting Viper character Honey. Sonic the Fighters being a spin-off kind of thing to that game. So I'm not sure if they want to keep that connection. That'd be weird. Might be copyright reason issues connected to her. But yeah, she looks the most unique, standalone-ish gang, so she could be a neat side character, I guess. I know it's very hard to talk about characters that are just a shape, just a design. That's it for this week. Next week will be the last of these vlogs. Getting through all the last remaining requests out of here, because I'm getting a little tired of this project. See you next week.